Hello class, welcome back to social studies. Today we're going to continue the Olympic Games topic that we started to discuss yesterday. So yesterday we learned that Olympic Games, the actual Olympic Games that we watch on TV, actually originated in ancient Greece. So specifically in the city-state of Olympia. And we learn that um, for for someone to be like if you are an athlete and you want to join the Olympic Games, so when during the opening ceremony, so the athletes has to swear. They have to swear to Zeus that they were citizens in Greece, and then that they are free men, and also they had done nothing wrong against the gods. So if after you swear that, then you can continue with the competition, right? So that's what they do before uh, getting on the actual race. So, and what's interesting also, class, yet like what we learned yesterday is that during Olympic games, during the Olympic Games, before even the Olympic Games, so they would announce it to every city states. They would announce when is the Olympic Games, and when the Olympic Games is coming, so the war has to start a week, like weeks before and weeks after. So the like all these city states that are fighting against each other, who are at war, okay, they would stop and give way for the travelers to safely go to and from the game, the city, from the city where the Olympic Games was being held. So they have to stop fighting. So that's a good thing, right? Because even soldiers, they would come and participate in the event. Like they could watch and also join the competition. So it's a very good activity we have, like a good, very good event, because people stop thinking about their enemies and they just focus on enjoying the event, which we learned that it was a religious festival for them in honor of Zeus. Now we've been following Theodorus, and today we will be continuing on our story. So remember yesterday we stopped where Theodorus was watching the chariot races, because this event was in 2 days. So we're going to continue, and I want you to listen carefully, class? Um, all right, so the next morning, so this is the second day. The next morning, all the athletes gathered again at the stadium. The athletes of each city state grouped together, and they all marched around the stadium while thousands of spectators stood and cheered. So after that, the priest sacrificed 100 oxen to Zeus. So the rest of the day would be used for the boys' competition. So the next day, the following morning, so all the athletes gathered again in the stadium, and what they did is that they grouped together and they marched around uh, the stadium. And after that, they, like, a sacrifice is offered again by the priest. And what's the sacrifice, class? 100 oxen. Oxen is the plural of ox. Ox. Now, but this day the competition were for the boys. So um all right. So there were only a few seats in the stadium for officials and important visitors. All the other men found a place to watch on a hill that rose from the edge of the stadium. So women and girls weren't allowed to even watch. Okay, so no women and girls in the Olympic Games. So um, Theodorus and other athletes and visitors from the city-state sat together on the hill. They watched the boys race, wrestle, and box, and they cheered loudly for the boys from their own city-state. So groups of Greeks from other city-states rooted for their own boys. So Theodorus himself, okay. So what they do, like Theodorus and the people from his city states, they sat together to be able to watch. Okay, so the stadium before, they don't really have seats. There are seats, but only for officials and important visitors. But for athletes and other spectators, so they have to find their own spot where they can sit and watch the event. Okay, so they sat as a group from each city state, and they cheered on for the boys that comes from their city state. Okay, so their stadium is very different from the stadium we have now. Like if you've ever been to a stadium, for example, the MetLife Stadium. So there's a lot of seat, like you can comfortably sit and watch the games. Okay, but yeah, so in ancient Greece, it's very different. So Theodorus himself had competed when he was a boy. He had not won, but he had done well and brought honor to his city-state and his family. So even though he did not win the race, but still he brought honor to the city-state and his family. So on this day, other boys would bring home to their city-state, would bring home honor to their city-state. So the next day was Theodorus' big day, the day when all the men's events would be held. So the best athletes in all of Greece would be competing. Okay, so if these men started competing when they were boys, just like Theodorus, so they were really good athletes already when they become an adult, right? Because they've been competing since they were boys. All right, okay, so there would be foot races, wrestling, boxing, javelin throwing, and jumping. Okay, so those are the events for the men's. Now, Theodorus had been looking forward to this day for 4 years. Remember, the Olympics only happens every four years, okay? So early in the morning, while it was still dark, he had gone to the temple of Zeus. Okay? He asked Zeus to help him win his race and left a gift for Zeus. When Theodorus got to the stadium, many of the other competition were already there. Competitors were already there. While he waited for his first race, Theodorus watched runners line up for the first foot race. At the signal, the runners were off. Theodorus cheered them on as they ran past. Soon Theodorus was headed for his place at the starting line. Because men had come from almost 100 city-states to compete, the runners for one event could not all race at the same time. So 20 men at a time race in groups called heats. Okay? Heats. Heats. So, and the winners of each heat would run in the final race. So Theodorus waited for the signal to start, and there it was. He leaped forward and ran as fast as he could. He was ahead of everyone. If he could stay ahead all the way to the end of the stadium and back again, he would win. As he reached the halfway point, Theodorus was still ahead. He sped around the point and back toward the finish line. There was the finish line. He was still ahead. He was across. So what do you think? Did he won the race? The first one? Yes, he won the race. Okay, so he was ahead of everyone. Now, so how did Theodorus prepare before going to the race? Huh? So he probably woke up very early because it was still dark, and he headed to the temple of Zeus. And what did he do there? He asked Zeus to help him win the race. That means he prayed, right? And then he even left a gift for Zeus. And then he headed to the stadium and waited for his turn. Okay, so because there are 100 around 100 city states that join, that send participants for the race, so they couldn't make those 100 people run at once. Okay, so they were grouped into 20 men. So each group of runners, okay, were 20 people. So this 20, like, they call the run of the first group, they call it hits. Okay, so if there are 100 people, 100 men running for the race, so they group it into how many? 5, right? So 20, 20, 20, 20, that's group of 5. Group of 20s, and no, 5 groups of 20s. Okay, remember this in math class, 5 groups of 20. So each winner from each hit, so this one run, one group that runs, that's called a hit. Okay, so there's 5 hits. Now each winner of these hits is going to compete for the final race. Okay, so that's how they did it. So from, let's say for example, from 100 men, 1 winner for it. So that means there will be 5 people running for the final race. Okay, so the question is was Theodorus going to be running for the final race, class? Was he? Yes, he is, because he won the race, the first one, right? Now, the final race would be in a few hours. Theodorus walked around the stadium and watched the other the other events. So some men threw the discus or javelin. Others wrestled or boxed. Others ran shorter or longer races. There were even a race in which the competitors ran in full battle armor. You know what's a battle armor, class? When it's war, they wear this armor on their body to protect themselves. So there's a race like that. Okay, you have to run with the armor in your body. Now finally, Theodorus heard the call for his race. He lined up again and waited for the signal to start. Now when the signal came, he jumped forward for the second time that day. So giving his everything. Okay, he gave his everything. Now 2 runners sprinted ahead of him, but Theodorus began to gain on them. As they reached the halfway point, Theodorus passed one of the runners. He was close behind the other. So they were almost at the finish line. Theodorus gave his legs Theodorus gave his legs an extra push and launched forward. He passed the other runner and crossed the line. He had, what do you think? He won or not? Yes, of course he won. Okay, he really pushed himself. He was really determined to win the race. Okay, class. So, and then he did. Okay, he won the race. So the other athletes from his city-states crowded around Theodorus, cheering and shouting. So they boasted him onto their shoulders and carried him around the stadium. Theodorus was a hero, so everyone from his city-states crowded around and boosted him up, carried him around the stadium. So they were celebrating because somebody won from their team, okay, from their city-state. So they're very proud of him and they called him a hero. So it's just like when you watch the Olympic Games on TV, class, when there's races, they also go by group, and whoever wins for each run, then they have to compete for the final run, okay? And even in swimming, class, because if there's 100 swimmers, they cannot swim in a pool for one time only, right? They cannot fit in the pool, so they do it by groups. And then whoever wins that, then they have to compete for the final race. Okay, so that's the same in ancient Greece, class. Okay, now the same thing also when someone win from a team, everybody cheered on that person because it's an honor that someone from your country or someone from your city states won a race. Okay, now on the last day of the Olympics, all the winning athletes gathered in the stadium one by one. Each winner was announced and crowned with his prize. Okay, do you know what's the prize, class? This is the prize. A wreath. Okay? A wreath. But this wreath is not just any wreath, class. It's a wreath that it was made from the branches of a sacred tree that grow near the temple of Zeus. Okay, so it's a special wreath. Now they had brought great glory to their city-states, and in return their city-states would honor them for the rest of their lives. So they will be remembered forever because of what they did for their city-states. Okay, so even though the prize is not really like money or gold medal, but it was something special for them because it's made from a sacred tree. All right, remember that it's a religious event, right, in honor of Zeus, so it's probably very special for them to put that wreath on their head. Okay, it's like a crown. Okay, now in modern Olympics, class, if you watch them on TV, they also like the winner would receive awards also, but they were awarded with gold medal. Okay, gold medal for the first, and the second would be silver, and then the third would be bronze. Okay, and they will be given like a bouquet of flowers, class. So that's the modern Olympics, but even in ancient Greece, they does the same thing, but it's just a different kind of award. All right, class. Now I want to show you some photos here of an Olympic Games. Okay, this is an opening ceremony. Okay, of Olympic Games. This was in Australia in 2000. Okay, Sydney, Australia. Okay, that's an opening ceremony. All right, and I'm gonna show you the ruins of Zeus's temple. This one here. Ruin, that means the remains of his temple. But inside of this, like, it looks like this. Okay, this is probably Zeus right there. That's Zeus. Okay, and the prizes they would get if they won an event are this. Okay, you see this? Okay, so you can see, so what kind of event you did, you can see it from the artwork on this jar, or these are pot. Okay, pottery, because Greece also loves pottery, glass. Okay, now, so that would be all for the Olympic Games. Okay, and you can answer the questionnaire I posted on Google Classroom, class. Okay, see you next time. We're going to be talking about the Persian Wars. Okay, bye for now.